Britain expected silence, but what King Charles reportedly did on Princess Diana's 65th birthday.
Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life. I pray for the guidance and help of Almighty God.
Has reopened one of the monarchy's deepest emotional wounds. Some call it a heartfelt act of reconciliation, while others believe it changes how history remembers Diana forever.
I will be reducing the extent of the public life I've led so far. My first priority will continue to be our children, William and Harry.
July 1, 2026 was supposed to be a very quiet and calm day for the royal family. Usually, big dates like this are written down in special books and planned out months or even years in advance. But on this specific day, the palace wanted things to stay private. It was a day for the family to think and remember, not a day for a big show. It was a day to look back on a woman who was very important to them and to the whole world. This was the day that Princess Diana would have turned 65 years old. If you looked at the official schedule for Kensington Palace, you would not see any big parties listed. There was no plan for a grand ceremony with music and flags. There was no new official painting or photo for the public to see. There was not even a formal letter sent out to the newspapers. It was meant to be a day that just passed by quietly like a soft breeze. But by the time the sun started to set that evening, everything had changed. The day no longer felt like a quiet date on a calendar. Instead, the day belonged to someone that no one had expected to take the lead. That person was Princess Charlotte. She is only 11 years old, but she did something that caught everyone by surprise. It was not a big, loud thing. It was actually something very small and very natural. She did it without any cameras watching her and without any adults telling her what to do. It was a moment where she was just being herself. But when the people who work at the palace saw what she did, they could not stop talking about it. When the details finally reached the public, the story felt very heavy and very important. It was a kind of importance that you don't usually expect from a child. This is not just a story about the palace giving a gift to remember someone. It is a story about a granddaughter who never got to meet her grandmother. It is about what happened when she finally got a real chance to know the woman she was named after. This is the story of that special day. This moment was much more than just a sweet family story hidden away from the world. It actually touches on something that the royal family has found very difficult for almost 30 years. Ever since Princess Diana passed away, people have wondered how she should be remembered. Who is the person who gets to decide how her story is told? For a long time, the leaders at the palace have tried to manage her memory very carefully. They wanted to make sure everything stayed calm and formal. But when does a memory stop being something that is managed by a big office and start being something that is truly felt in the heart? For most of Charlotte's life, Diana has just been a name she heard. She was a face in a beautiful picture on the wall. She was a story that grown-ups told her very carefully. But what happened on this birthday changed all of that. It changed it in a way that the palace did not plan. They could not have guessed that an 11-year-old girl would be the one to change how everyone felt. To really understand why this moment made so many people feel so many strong emotions, it helps to look back at the small things that happened first. It started with a tiny tribute that happened a few weeks before the big birthday. Charlotte wore a pearl bracelet that looked exactly like one her grandmother used to wear. It was a quiet way to show she was thinking of her. Then we have to look at the actual birthday. Charlotte made a very private request that caught everyone in the house by surprise. Nobody saw it coming. After that request, there was a moment that followed which was very powerful. People say that even the adults in the room had a hard time not crying. They had to fight back their tears because they were so moved. Finally, we have to think about what it means for the future. Diana's life story is not just in books or movies anymore. It is being carried by an 11-year-old girl who is learning about it for the very first time. Let's look closer at how this all happened. Princess Diana was a very famous person who was born a long time ago on July 1, 1961. She was born in a house called Park House in a place called Norfolk. She lived a very busy life, but she died very young. She was only 36 years old when she passed away on August 31, 1997. Because she died so long ago, Princess Charlotte was never going to have the chance to meet her in person. Charlotte was born in the year 2015. That was 18 years after the sad car accident that ended Diana's life. For Charlotte's entire childhood, her grandmother has only existed in her mind. She has seen many photographs of her. She has heard her father and mother tell stories about her. Sometimes she has even been allowed to see or hold special things that belong to Diana. These are called heirlooms. and they are passed down through the family with a lot of care and explanation so the children know why they are so special. One of those special family items became very famous just a few weeks before this 65th birthday. It happened at a big event called Trooping the Color on June 13. On that day, many people were watching the royal family. They noticed that Charlotte was wearing a very pretty bracelet made of 3 rows of pearls. This bracelet looked exactly like a piece of jewelry that Diana used to wear all the time in the late 1980s. It was a special design made in 1988 for a charity that helps babies. The real, original bracelet now belongs to Catherine, who is Charlotte's mother and the Princess of Wales. Catherine wore the real bracelet on that same day. Charlotte wore a version that was made to match it. It was a very clear and very thoughtful choice for the mother and daughter to wear them together. It was like a quiet signal to everyone that they were thinking about Diana. The people who love to watch the royal family noticed the bracelet right away. People who write about fashion and jewelry called it a quiet tribute. This means it was a small, gentle way to show honor and love. At the time, very few people realized that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Many people have started to notice that Charlotte looks more and more like her grandmother every year. They talk about it quite a lot. A lady named Ingrid Seward, who writes a lot about the royal family, has said that Charlotte has more than just Diana's name. She says that Charlotte has the same kind of warmth in her personality. She has the same way of looking people directly in the eye when she talks to them. She also has the same easy way of being friendly with strangers. These are the exact things that made people all over the world love Diana so much when she was alive. There was a story in a magazine called Hello that talked about how Catherine, Charlotte's mother, has been very helpful. She has made a big effort over the last few years to make sure Diana is part of her children's lives every day. She doesn't want Diana to be a scary or distant person from a history book. She wants her children to feel like they can talk about her and ask questions about her whenever they want. This is a very big deal because Diana was not just a princess with a crown. She was a woman who did very brave things. She once walked through a field full of dangerous landmines in a country called Angola. She did this because she wanted the world to see how bad those things were for people. She also visited hospitals and held the hands of people dying from a sickness called AIDS. At that time, many people were afraid to even be near them, but Diana showed them kindness. She even took her sons to see people who were homeless, so they would understand that some people have a very hard life. Charlotte did not get to see any of these brave things happen with her own eyes. She has to learn about them from other people. She is hearing the story bit by bit, like pieces of a puzzle. Now that she is 11 years old, she is finally at an age where she can understand more. She is old enough to ask real, deep questions and get real, honest answers. She isn't just a little kid anymore who needs to be protected from everything. This is the stage she was at when her grandmother's 65th birthday arrived. She was a young girl standing at the edge of a very big and very famous legacy. She was just beginning to truly understand what it all meant. It was also a special time because Charlotte had just turned 11 herself only a few weeks earlier. The palace had even released a new picture of her to celebrate her own birthday in May. A man named Duncan Larcombe, who writes about the lives of the royal family, has noticed a change. He says that Charlotte is now at the right age to be told the full version of Diana's life story. When children are very young, parents usually tell them the nice and safe parts of a story. They leave out the parts that might be too sad or too confusing, but as children grow up, parents start to tell them the whole truth. This includes the parts of the story that are difficult to hear. Moving from a safe story to a real story is a big step for a family. It is about trusting a child with the truth. The palace doesn't make a big announcement when this happens. It is something that happens quietly behind closed doors. It happens in the kitchen or in the living room when the family is just being together. According to people who know the family well, the day of July 1st happened in 3 special parts. Each part was smaller and quieter than the one before it. But even though they were small, they felt very heavy with meaning. The first part was about that pearl bracelet again. People say that Charlotte asked if she could wear the bracelet on that specific day. She didn't want to wear it for a party or for a photo that the whole world would see. She wanted to wear it for just a normal Wednesday at home. There were no big events to go to that day. There was no reason at all for her to take the jewelry out of its special box, but she wanted to wear it anyway. We don't know for sure if she was allowed to, but the people who know the family say this was a very big sign. It showed that the birthday meant something special to Charlotte. She was making her own choice about how she wanted to feel that day. The second part of the day was even quieter and more private. A source who knows about the family said that Charlotte asked her mother, Catherine, a very important question. She asked Catherine to tell her something about Diana that she had never heard before. She didn't want to hear a famous story that was in the news. She didn't want a fact that you could find on the internet. She wanted to hear something small and personal. She wanted a detail that only the family would know. Catherine told her a story about a regular afternoon from the past. It was a story about family and everyday life. This was the kind of memory that never gets written down in history books. One person said that this was the moment when Diana stopped being just a name on a piece of paper for Charlotte. She started to feel like a real human being. Catherine had been waiting for Charlotte to be ready to ask that question. She didn't want to force the stories on her before she was old enough to really listen. Then came the third part of the day. This is the part that many people found the most moving. Charlotte was told a story about how Diana had a special habit. Diana used to pick flowers and press them between the pages of her favorite books so they would stay forever. This was a private thing she did that not many people knew about. When Charlotte heard this, she asked if she could try it too. She wanted to go out into the garden that afternoon and find some flowers of her own to press. Someone who was there said the whole room went very quiet when she asked this. Many of the adults who were there felt very emotional. They were moved not just by what she said, but by who was asking. It was a little girl trying to do exactly what her grandmother used to do. One person said it was the closest anyone had felt to having Diana back in the house. To understand why this is so different from a regular palace event, you have to think about how things usually work. For almost 30 years, the way people remember Diana has been managed by big offices. They pick the pictures, they write the speeches, and they decide when to have an anniversary. It always feels a bit like it is happening from far away. But Diana herself did not like that kind of distance. When she was alive, she always tried to be close to people. She once said she wanted to be the queen of people's hearts. She didn't want to be a person who just sat behind glass like a museum piece. On this day, July 1st, there were no offices making decisions. There was no big group of people telling the family what to do. There was just a young girl asking her mother a question. There was a mother choosing to be honest instead of giving an answer that someone else wrote for her. Catherine has mentioned before that she wants her children to know Diana as a real person. She wants them to know her as someone with a heart, not just a famous symbol. On this birthday, we finally saw that happen. It didn't happen because of a big letter or a public speech. It happened during one quiet afternoon at home. Nobody planned to have cameras there to record it. There is something very sweet and very tender about that image. It is a child reaching out to a grandmother she never got to meet. She used a simple bracelet, a flower from the garden, and a very good question. It is easy to forget when we see them in their fancy clothes, but the royal family is still just a family. When they lose someone they love, it hurts them just like it hurts anyone else. They have to carry that sadness even while the whole world is watching them. Prince William has also talked about this in the past. He really wants his children to know his mother. He wants her to be a real part of their lives, not just a name they see in a headline. He has talked about how they have small moments at home where her name comes up naturally. They don't make it a scary or big event. They just talk about her like she is part of the family. What happened on July 1st is the best proof we have that this is working. It did not happen because a parent told Charlotte what to do. It happened because Charlotte decided to do it on her own terms. She chose her own way to show love. What this means for the future is actually quite big. For many years, Diana's story belonged to historians, writers, and the public. People were always asking questions and writing books about her. But that is slowly changing now. Her story is starting to belong to her family again. It belongs to a child who is just starting to understand the name she was given. She is realizing what a big gift she has inherited. Diana never made it to 65 years old. She never got to see her beautiful granddaughter. She never saw Charlotte pressing flowers in the garden or wearing her pearls. She never heard the questions that only a family can answer. But during that quiet and unscripted afternoon, a woman who has been gone for a long time became very real to an 11-year-old girl. And that is a story that no one could have scripted.